Hello Holt County and welcome to the latest edition of Eye on Holt County. I'm Nicole Sedlacek. The O'Neill Community Foundation Fund, with the generous help of the Peter Kiewit Foundation, will distribute $22,000 in emergency grant relief funds to organizations in Holt County this year. The funds will be used to provide food, utility assistance, and housing assistance, including emergency clothing and household supplies. The O'Neill Community Foundation Fund has identified recipient agencies and will work directly with these program directors. Assistance will be provided through Central Nebraska Community Services, Bright Horizons, and the O'Neill Ministerial Association. These three organizations have a reputation and a long history of assisting individuals and families in need during difficult time and in a confidential manner. Funds will be used to meet emergency food, utility, and housing assistance needs to residents throughout Holt County. This is the third time the Peter Kiewit Foundation Board of Trustees has provided rural emergency assistance funding. The O'Neill Community Foundation Fund administered $20,000 in 2009 and another $20,000 in 2010 through similar programs. The O'Neill Community Foundation Fund was selected as one of a limited number of local community foundations and community action agencies eligible to apply for the grant. In 2009, 70 households were served, and in 2010, 87 households were served. The O'Neill Community Foundation Fund was formed in 1998. Its purpose is to provide financial support to causes and organizations that meet the emerging needs in the O'Neill and Holt County area. The O'Neill Community Foundation Fund has reinvested over $70,000 back in the O'Neill area since 2005. To find out more about the O'Neill Community Foundation Fund, visit their website at o'neillcommunityfoundation.org. This week's Business Spotlight is on a business we're all familiar with. For most of us, they're almost like a part of our family, waking us up each morning or joining us on our commute to work or school. This week's Spotlight is on KBRX Radio. KBRX Radio is a locally owned radio station that has been on the air since 1955. KBRX has a unique history. Gil Posey, who had worked for the president of the radio station, was offered the opportunity to purchase the station. The offer was to operate the station for a year, pay off the debt, and purchase the station with no money down. Now, buying a radio station with no money down may sound good, but it's not easy to do if you have no money, which Gil didn't, and the radio station at that time owed everyone for everything. Gil recalled visiting with a local banker at that time about financing for the station. The banker suggested that perhaps Gil should simply operate the station out of his basement of his home. That solution wasn't going to work because Gil didn't have a basement or a home at that time. Instead, Gil says he wrote to all their creditors and promised to pay each of them $5 a month until all debts were paid off. With patience, hard work, and perseverance, all debts were paid off, and seven years later, papers were drawn up for Ranchland Broadcasting. One of the longest running programs on KBRX is Party Line. It started in 1958 and it continues yet today. Today, Scott Posey is the voice of Party Line. Scott first came onto the radio at the age of 13. Today, we won't say how old he is, but let's just say he has lots of experience in the radio business today. During the Vietnam War, KBRX broadcast all military funerals over the air. We wanted to make people aware that we were in a war, said Gil, who was a veteran of both World War II and the Korean War. On September 12, 2001, the day after the September 11th attacks, KBRX played the national anthem at 7:35 to help remind us that America is still strong. 11 years later, our national anthem has been played every morning at 7:35 a.m. on KBRX. One of the few live shows from KBRX was the Sandhills Jack Show. One day during the show, Johnny Cash came through O'Neill and even stopped in to visit with Jack on the show. Over the years, KBRX has worked hard to inform and entertain us. One incident was the contest to see how long it would take to melt 4,000 pounds of ice in downtown O'Neill. Well, it took much longer than they thought. It took 4 days. The ice had to be watched all night, as some of the locals might have helped the melting of the ice. I remember an April Fool's joke that had some people laughing and others really upset. After Gibson's left O'Neill, we had an empty building. Officials from a Las Vegas casino were reportedly supposedly in town and were going to host a press conference at the building. The press conference was announced that morning right before 8 a.m., with the conference to be held later on that morning. I think it was around 11. So there was plenty of time for rumors to run rampant through O'Neill. Many thought Nebraska was going to legalize casino gambling at that time, and casino owners were going to announce a big investment in O'Neill, with the casino to be located at the old Gibson's building. The prank was even pulled off with the limousine pulling into the parking lot. KBRX has grown considerably from the 250-watt AM station located in the Quonset, where they started broadcasting in 1955. The Quonset is still in use and actually inside the new structure, with the physical structure of KBRX being added onto 3 times to its present size. Today, they have 14 full and part-time employees, 10 community reporters, and another handful of sports reporters to bring us what we want to hear on the radio. KBRX is a powerhouse today. They were one of the first stations in Nebraska to go digital. They've been streaming ball games and newscasts online for listeners all over the world to tune into. They also use social media to draw in listeners, with over 5,000 fans that follow them on Facebook alone. Many radio stations have been gobbled up by corporations and large media companies, losing their local feel. We are fortunate right here in North Central Nebraska to have a strong local station. KBRX was recently awarded the 2012 O'Neill Chamber of Commerce Community Service Award for their outstanding service to our communities. After college, I had the opportunity to work for KBRX Radio for 6 years. While there, I learned many things, but the one thing that still resonates with me today is that while KBRX antennas and transmitters may be located in O'Neill, they're definitely a regional radio station. From cruise nights and parades to high school ball games and everything else in between, KBRX is in all of our communities right here in North Central Nebraska. They truly do their best to bring out our best in our local communities. That wraps up this edition of Eye on Holt County. I want to thank all of you who are sending me submissions for how to close this program. I'll feature a new one each week until we come up with the perfect one. This one was submitted by Vicki Krieger. Keeping an eye on the latest news for you, I'm Nicole Sedlacek, and thank you for watching. I hope you can join me next week.